Hello, and welcome to a new Heroes of Might and Magic Olden Era video. In this one, I'm going to be tiering every single creature on Necropolis. I have Luna as my co-host here to join me, watch over me, and give us some cute mouse. Take it away. Maybe next time. So yeah, we're going to be starting off with the humble skeleton. So, skeleton, okay, I'm gonna be like switching up my criteria. In Heroes of Might and Magic 3, I ranked them for their availability in terms of Necro. However, that will no longer be like a criteria when ranking Necropolis creatures, because all of them can actually be attained with Necromancy. So we are gonna be tiering the creature like straight up for what it is. And skeleton is a very, very clunky, bad creature. They don't really like have many redeemable factors, you know, they're slow, they're pretty squishy, they're like pretty low damage, you know, like honestly, nothing really cool about them. They are F tier, they feel horrible on your army, they feel like they're just there to die, and they will do so very quickly. That's the only thing that they're good at. Next up is the Skeleton Warrior. So, Skeleton can upgrade into Skeleton Archer, Skeleton Warrior, so of course this is the melee variant of the Skeleton. They gain quite a bit of speed, they gain quite a bit of tankiness, and they're honestly like bulky badasses. However, they're still like pretty hard to enable. They need a lot of enabling in order to actually be like really good. And in my opinion, they don't really like accomplish enough to be that great. They are quite the step up from the skeleton, but still, they are going to be C tier. Next up is we have the Skeleton Archer. Now this unit changed everything! You can get your easily farmable, super available skeletons to actually be a shooter? Really? Okay. So they are immediately enabled, you know, like from the very beginning of the game, they are always going to be connecting. Every single round they're going to be dealing damage, applying pressure, and being so active and good. It just changes the entire faction so much for the better. It is the best feeling thing in the world. I love Skeleton Archers, and I think they are making the faction like so much of a step up. So yeah, that is amazing. So next up is we have the Wight. So the Wight is actually okay. Necro used to be like a very specific faction in Heroes of Might and Magic 3, okay? So the main reason for that is because they had the Vampire Lords. And Vampire Lords could cheat fights by, you know, like just out-healing any damage that they received. Basically cheating fights out for free without bleeding anything. And, you know, there's vampires and vampire lords in Olden Era, so you would be thinking that the vampire lords took up the mantle of being the vampire lord. Wrong. The true vampire lord is the humble Wight. They not only can they like get units by attacking and add to their HP pool, they can actually overheal and become even stronger as they fight. As long as you're the one getting like the first hit in and you're not like completely overwhelmed, Wights just take everything for free. They feel so good to use. They don't need as much enabling as a Vampire Lord would. Anything that is vampable will immediately be crumbling apart by the power of the Wights. The unupgraded Wight is going to be A tier. The best upgrade, the green upgrade, is going to be an S tier unit. Amazing. I have been overlooking this unit for too long, but recently I've been playing some more Jeebus Outcast and Vendetta, and I've actually gotten to pick up Necro because is either very generous or stupid when it comes to like training phase. We'll go with the generous one. So yeah, I got to my hands on Necro, and it's never been the same ever since I used the Wraiths a little bit. The Phantasms is the worst of the upgrades. They gain a little bit of defense skill, which is pretty cool. However, Wraiths double their main ability, which is going to be the Essence Drain or whatever. It's called, where they, you know, like basically vamp into overheal. So yeah, amazing units, like super solid. Next up is we have the humble Undead Pet. Undead pets have range damage reduction, so they're like very tanky boys in terms of like their stat line, in terms of like what they do. They're just like really tanky and pretty cool. So because of that, they get like well, it's kind of hard to say. I would put them C tier. They're not very exciting to build, they're not like super exciting to power stack. However, when you get them, they're actually like good old, reliable. They're fine. basically, yeah, they're fine. So if you want them to be a little bit more offensive, you go for the Barkist. They have the special ability of calling more units, basically shadow armying yourself. However, it takes like a full turn. So if you want to like use Barkist's ability, then you basically have to like get focused, then get a turn, then click the ability, then your turn is passed, you have to then wait for the next round, and then suddenly you can maybe do something with the Shadow Army. This ability like completely sucks, it doesn't really function. However, the unit itself is just like, thank you, good boy. So, yeah, they're just here. The Armored Hound is the one that applies damage over time, which is also, like, pretty useless. They're just, like, a slightly better undead pet. It is the... Actually, no. This is B tier. This is the preferred upgrade of the two. And the Armored Hound is like a little bit annoying whenever you meet them out in the wild, but they don't really like do that much, so they are going to be in C tier, in my opinion. Then next up is we have the tier 4. So these tier 4s are pretty weird, okay? So Grave Robbers. They can summon creatures, cost quite a bit of focus, but at least they don't skip their turn whenever they do so, so it's actually like quite a bit of tempo whenever they do. But however, they're like pretty good statted units, like they are pretty bulky, they deal a good amount of damage, they don't take retaliations because they're long reach as well, but getting them to actually connect and be like mobile enough on the map to actually use any of these strengths is actually really hard. They also have an insane growth. You have a base growth of 10. So you build like them in 2 towns, just like a prerequisite to get some liches. You get them immediately, you get them on the new week, and the same for the other town. You suddenly have 40 of these brothers, and 40 of these brothers is a lot of army. So yeah, their main selling point is you get an astronomical amount of them by doing almost nothing, which is pretty weird for that to be like the selling point of a unit, but honestly they do it well. They kind of suck as a unit, but it's okay to suck as a unit when there's gonna be like that many of you. It does get really expensive to buy them though, so it's not like just a straight up like, you know, super makes them super good. The downside is that you have to be like really rich in order to like even be able to like use the fact. But if you're super rich, then you usually are investing into other better creatures anyway, so they're like kind of like in a weird spot. I feel like they're kind of like a plan B that is always out there for you, because you get like so many of them, you don't really need like dwellings or other sources of army whenever you go for these brothers. Well, then again, Necro never needs like any sources of army, you know? So, yeah. I would put Grave Robbers, honestly, in like high C tier, because it feels so bad to use them, and they're so expensive. They're honestly like put up from the F tier just because they are as plentiful as the I. The Kettle Master though, when upgraded, actually gains like a more decent speed and becomes like a decent brawling unit. They can also summon dogs, which is pretty cool. And these upgrades, I think, make him into a decent B tier unit. The Merchant of Death is my less preferred of the 2 upgrades. They can summon the Wraiths, but Wraiths are so squishy. Unless you're like playing for Wraiths and have like a decent plan for them, they don't really like do a lot. The dogs by default, if they exist, they will be tanky, they will be good boys, they will not get one shot, and they will actually be like able to do something a little bit useful. Whether it's like soaking up damage, blocking something, taking retail, maybe even dealing some damage, you know, dogs are good at it. So Kettle Masters are great, but Merchant of Death I think lacks these things. So they're gonna be low B tier instead. Next up is the Lich. So the Lich is the glue that holds all of the faction together. They have an ability, Rewind Life, that can res any unit. So yes, even if you have like any like non-necro units, they're actually going to be able to res them too. And the res is like so big. Whenever you picked up the Law, they're going to be resing like 20 HP per Lich, which is an insane amount. And this is like before you upgrade them as well. They do a really good damage, they're pretty sturdy, and they are the complete medics that will make you not bleed anything in any of the fights. They feel so good to even have like in low quantities, and if you have them in high quantities, then the game is like so nice. They don't, I mean, yeah, they're not like the main choice of a power stack, but they are amazing. They should be present in most of your Necro games, at least to a certain extent. Next up is the Pestilent Lich. So the Pestilent Lich loses Rewind Death and instead gains the ability to trigger all damage over time instantaneously. That's on the target. I haven't tried it myself. I've heard reports that it doesn't work, and even if it did work, I'm not very impressed compared to the healing abilities of the Lich. I would say they are... Oh, but they do gain the AoE strike, so they actually kind of maybe would function better as a power stack. Anyway, I would say that they are C tier. Honestly, a downgrade. Next up is the Sanguine Lich. So they rest for more, they gain like a little bit of stats, and they also heal whenever they deal damage. This heal, on paper, when I first read it, I was like, oh my god! And then I used it and it was the most pathetic thing ever. That heal doesn't matter, it just doesn't exist. However, there's still an upgraded version of the Lich. Just like a straight up upgrade. And so, you know, whenever you upgrade a very good unit, you get a better unit. Who would have thought? Next up is the Dread Knights. So, the Dread Knights are... honestly, like, one of the most broken power stacks in the entire game. So, like, in some formats, you actually can't even get creature banks for them. Like, you go into, like, a place where you fight some dogs, and you actually get straight up Dread Knights as a reward that you don't have to pay for, or build, or anything. So, that kind of source of them is already amazing. It's available on, like, Sprint, and maybe some Jeebus templates, though I actually haven't seen it, so maybe not. Then, their base growth is also free, as opposed to like the normal 2 for any other tier 6 unit. Then also you get their specialist, instead of raising their growth by 1 as any tier 6 specialist, their specialist gives them 2 growth instead. So like, all of this is ridiculous. Basically, whenever you're going to be playing for a tier 6 power stack, nothing is going to be as big as a Dread Knight power stack. And honestly, they're pretty great units still. A double striker that's like super tanky, high stats. Honestly, it's hard to say what kind of weakness these guys even have in the first place. They are very solid, A tier units. So next up, if you upgrade them to the Avatar of Death, Avatar of War, then they're going to be just like way bulkier, way faster. The downside is the fact that their upgrade costs immense amounts of money. It will cripple you. Yeah, this is generational debt, like literal money generational debt that you're going into whenever you're trying to upgrade like any meaningful amount of Dread Knights. But that being the only weakness that I can even like kind of like point at, it still makes them an S tier unit. One of the best power stacks that the faction has. The Hollow Reaper trades their it trades their double attack for some damage for Death Stare. So whenever they hit something, they will be killing like at least 1 unit of the stack. Plus 1 unit from the stack. And they also have the ability to hit everyone around the initial target by using a little bit of focus. So like the Inquisitor Flail, if you know that one. And honestly, I feel like the double attacking Avatars of War are way better. Hollow Reapers kind of like maybe function more as a 1 stack or like a utility stack, or maybe like some sort of like a specific, like trying to break like big conglomerates. Maybe like if Temple would like stack up in the corner with all their shooters, maybe the Hollow Reaper could just go in and just like hit all of them at the same time. That would be amazing. But these are dreamy scenarios that usually will not happen. I would say that the Hollow Reaper is the worst of the upgrades. Barely better than the Dread Knight, but kind of has its uses. I sometimes like them. And next up is the Vampires. The Keg W of the entire faction. Their stats are the most pathetic out of all the tier 7s by far. Honestly, Avatar of War feels more imposing. 1 Avatar of War over 1 Vampire every single time is gonna be like way scarier, trust me. Yeah, they of course have the vampirism ability, but honestly, like it feels like pretty restricted because very, very many units are kind of like immune to it. They don't really deal that much damage, they can't really tank that much damage, they honestly like almost suck at everything that they do. However, you get a lot of them. Their baseline growth is 2. So you get like almost as many of them as you get like tier 6 units in other factions, which is pretty good, but it gets expensive to buy that many tier 7s. So once again, gold is kind of an issue if you're going to be like massively playing into them. And if you play into them, you better play it for a mass amount because this is like a very threshold unit. They either like, you know, like there's either enough of them to like out heal and out sustain, and that's what they do, and they do it pretty well. But you have to like meet a certain threshold of them. So if you're committing to them, you should like pretty hard commit to them. But it's kind of hard to do when the units is like so pathetic. So I don't know. They don't really. I mean, I feel like they're cool. Like this big Giga Chad vampire is awesome, but they're weak. I don't. Then next up is the Vampire Lord. They gain Swift Track, and they gain stats, and they gain speed. So, you know, they're a better version, but honestly their stats don't really grow as much as the other upgraded tier 7. So once again, just lack of stats. They did go up to like high B tier. And next up is the Vampire Scholar. They get to transfer their vampirism ability onto like a different unit by using Focus. They also have a long reach attack, which immediately disqualifies them from getting retailed on, of course. And they also have Corpse Explosion, which I don't really like find to be that useful. But maybe it's just like the lack of meta development. So yeah, these guys are also, you know, I mean, it's super hard to give, you know, a statless T7 anything above a B tier. So there it is. That is our roster for Necropolis. It's honestly like so much fun to play. Having like some Liches, Avatars of War feel like so imposing, so powerful. Skeleton Archers are reliable, so from day one, so nicely. Actually, if I was super honest, then this would be like the exact placement for the S tier. Yeah. So, I hope you guys enjoyed another tier list here. I'll be seeing you live on Twitch where I'm playing Olden era every single day. I'm top 5 on the ladder already and climbing, so make sure to not miss me hitting that rank 1 in a month or so. So yeah. Ciao ciao. See you next time. Will we get a meow? Okay, well, even if Luna doesn't love you, I still love you guys. Peace.